All right, once again, a big welcome to everyone in this class. This is overview of telecommunications. In this class, we will learn about telecommunication as an introduction. What does it mean? How it works? What are the elements and models for telecommunications and so on. So, what is the meaning of communication? Communication is a process that consists of more than two parties or three parties, which are the sender, receiver, and the message itself. And the message is actually could be any data or information, and this message is actually communicated via the signal. And the transmission media carries the signal. How we could actually transfer or transmit the signal by using the transmission media. And from this figure, we can actually understand more about the communication process. It has a sender and a receiver, and then the signal, which is usually carries out by the transmission medium. And in the next slide, we will learn about the transmission medium and how does it actually carries the signal along the way. One of the models that explains the main elements of communication process, the Shannon-Weaver mathematical model 1949, and it has, as we can see, 7 main elements. The first element is the information source, which is the sender. This sender is the source of the information, and he is going to send out his message or his data. And this message, in order for us to actually transmit this message, we need a signal to carry this message out. But while carrying this message, we need to encode this message to actually make it clear to understand. And then we are going to go through the channel, but we need to make sure the channel has no noise source, because if we have any noise source affecting our channel, the message might be corrupted. All right, and then after the channel, we are now receiving the message, but in order for us to make sure to receive it well, we need to decode. Okay, decode means we need to actually explain it well. All right, and then make sure we understand this message. And then finally, after decoding the message, it goes to its final destination or receiver. So these are the main elements that we need to consider whenever we want to make our communication process actually work. The information source, the encoder, transmitter, the channel receiver, and then destination, and then we want to make sure there is actually no noise source affecting our channel. Telecommunication is actually any electronic transmissions of signals for communications over distance. And for example, the telephone, telegraph, television, radio. So how this actually works? It works through the electronics transmissions. Okay, so how this actually signal be carried out? It be carried out using the telecommunications medium. So we can define telecommunication medium as anything that carries an electronic signal and interfaces between a sending device and a receiving device. And we will learn more about the medium in this in next slide. Okay, we have learned that the telecommunication happens through the medium. So what actually is the telecommunication medium? It's anything that carries an electronic signal and interfaces between a sending device and a receiving device. As we can see here, guys, these are some of the examples, cables that are used as a telecommunication medium. Okay, so now we understand the meaning of communication, and then the meaning of telecommunication, and then the meaning of the transmission medium, which are the cable. Okay, how this actually telecommunication work, we need a hardware. This hardware is actually going to send and receive the signals employing the telecommunication software that governs their operations, such as repeaters, hubs, bridges, switches, routers, and gateways. So without the hardware itself, it's actually impossible to work. So the telecommunication process needs a hardware, software, and then the medium itself, which actually carries the signals. Okay. Okay, so we understand now that telecommunication process is a whole process. We need a hardware, and then in order for us to make this hardware works, we need a software. Okay, and then for us to actually transmit the data or the information, we need the transmission medium. So it's actually a whole process. We cannot take part and leave the others. So why do we need a software? To make sure that we actually could run the hardware itself. So the telecommunication software are based on telecommunications protocols that is used to control, monitor load, troubleshoot data, provide security, and so on. Okay, so and this is actually one of the examples of a software that we use to make our hardware works during the telecommunication process. Okay, so far we have learned about the communication definition, the telecommunication definition, and the model of telecommunication, Shannon, and then we learned about the main elements of the Shannon model, how this communication process actually can work through these elements together. And then we learned about the hardware, software, and then the medium transmission. I hope everything is clear so far. And now we are going to talk about the history of telecommunication technologies through the actually the years. Okay, guys, let's go briefly about the history of computer technology and communication technology. In the computer technology in 1642 actually was the first mechanical adding machine was invented, followed by the first automatic calculator 1932, and in 1943 the first computer programmer published her notes. And for the communication technology, starting from 1562, the first monthly newspaper in Italy, and then the first magazine in Germany, 1594, 1639, first printing press, and then 1827, photographs on metal plates. From 1835 to 1876, actually the telephone was actually invented through all these era. And then from 1890 to 1947, in 1980 actually electricity was used for the first time in a data processing project. And then in 1930 the general theory of computers was invented. So in 1946 was the first programmable electronic computer in United States. While on the other hand, for the communication technologies, in 1899 the radio waves was identified, followed by Edison, which already made the first movie in 1894, and then Marconi develops a radio motion picture camera invented in 1895, followed by the Hollywood actually motion pictures and videos and so on. So the first TV demonstrated first sound movie in 1928, and then commercial TV broadcasting in 1939, color TV demonstrated in 1946, and then finally in 1947 transistor was actually invented. And from 1952 to 1977, IBM introduces 360 lines of computers following the microprocessor chips. And then in 1977, Apple computer, this is the first personal computer, was sold in assembled form. And for the communication technology, the cable TV was invented in 1950, followed by 1952 actually the direct distance dialing, no need to go through the operator. And then the push button telephones in 1961, and this is actually the first portable video recorder video cassette in 1968. And then for the flat screen TV and so on, and then in 1977 first interactive cable TV. And from 1981 to 1984, in 1981 in the computer technology, IBM introduces the personal computer, first personal computer, following by 1982 IBM introduces as well the portable computer, first portable computers. And then in 1984 Apple Macintosh first personal laser printing desktop. And then in 1994 as well, the Apple and IBM introduces PCs with full motion video, built-in wireless data transmissions, and so on. While on the other hand, for the communication technology, in 1979 they have started to use 3D TV demonstrated, and then in 1991 the CD-ROM games, and then in 1990 the IRS accepted electronically filled tax returns, and so on. And from 1998 till now, in 1998 actually, home video computers was actually first invented. In 2000, teleconferencing replaces the majority of business travel. And then in 2009, half of US workers work at home using computer systems. And 2012 was the first time to actually vote for a president from home. For the communication technology, in 1998, video stores begins shift from tapes to actually CDs. And then in 1999, full motion video, telephone, interactive TV setup, and so on. 2000, digital phone service available through the United States. And then 2009, old-fashioned TV broadcasting ends using the LCD TV. And 2015, Japan first major nation fully fiber optic cabled. And 2030, United States is going through the fully fiber optic cable. And who knows actually what coming in the future. Alright, so now we have already discussed briefly about the history of telecommunication technology and computer technology. Let's have a look about the internet. What does internet means, how it works, and what actually internet provides for a human being. And before we actually go on and define internet and what does it mean, how it works, let's see in the internet what happens in 1 minute. In 1 minute, there are actually millions of transactions, 20 million photo views. In Facebook, 6 million views in 1 minute. In Google, 2 million plus search queries. LinkedIn, 100 plus new LinkedIn accounts has been created. So in 1 minute in actually using the internet, there are million and million and million of transactions, views, video sharing, and so on. So what does internet means and how it works? All right, so what actually is the definition of internet? Internet is a global collection of network. How it works by transmitting the data through a special type of packet switching, which is known as the IP Internet Protocol. So when you actually are online, whether you're using your smartphone or laptop, you become a part of this global network. So what is actually the difference between the internet versus www? www, the World Wide Web, or web, is actually the pages that you see when you are using the internet, while the internet itself is the network of the connected computers that the web works on. So actually the www is part of the internet as a whole. So in order for us as a consumer to actually browse the internet, we need a browser. Browser is a software application that is actually used to allocate and display the web that we are browsing. For example, we have Google Chrome, we have Internet Explorer, we have Safari, Microsoft Edge, and so on. All right, so let's see how we actually do web searching and what does web searching means. In order for us to do the web searching, we need to use the web itself. Why it's called web, www? Because it actually, because of the interconnections between documents that actually resemble the spider's web. And this web is actually a software application that makes it easy and possible for nearly anyone to publish and browse hypertext documents on the internet. So in order for us to use the web searching, we need to be aware of how to use search engines and so on, and we will be talking about that in a moment. So the web searching is an act of looking for information in computer database or network using the search engines. And what actually makes us able to do the web searching is the web searching categories that we have. We have the directories, the search engines, meta search engines, yellow pages. Using one of these categories could actually help us looking for the information that we use, and we mostly use the search engines, for example, Google, Yahoo, and so on. So our first category here is a web directory, or it's called web guide, and it's actually is a hierarchical representation of hyperlinks, and the most famous directory is Yahoo, as we can see here. So it's actually one of the most example as a web directory or a web guide. The second category is search engines, and I'm sure all of us have already dealt with search engines before. For example, Google. Google is an example of search engines. And what actually it does, it actually allows users to submit a query that consists of a word or phrase and then search for database, and then it allows actually users to revise and submit again. It depends on the actually the consumer itself. All right, the third category is meta search engines. Meta search engines actually acquires other search engines. So when you are using meta search engines, you are not using a search engine itself. You are using a combination of more than one search engine. So a search engine that acquires other search engines and then combines the results that are received from all. So this is why it's called meta search engines. And we have some example of meta search engines. For example, www.search.com, www.dogpile.com, and www.clusty.com. These are an examples of meta search engines, and meta search engines, as we mentioned, does not use one search engines. It uses a combination of multiple search engines at a time. And then the fourth and final category is the yellow pages. Yellow pages is actually more of advertisement for businesses and people using the internet. And some of the examples are Bigfoot, Yahoo, Whoware, Yellow Page Malaysia, Super Pages, and so on. So if we could actually differentiate between directory and search engines, we could actually know that search engine is more specific. For example, directory allows you to explore and get what you want eventually, while on the other hand, search engines brings you to the exact page or the word or phrases that you have used or looking for. The directory use a directory to find cooking related websites, while on the other hand search engines will find you the specific recipe and provide you with the names of the ingredients. So search engines actually is more specific and more actually useful for you as a consumer. And for the web searching techniques, we actually have two main techniques: the pattern matching queries and Boolean queries, and we are going to talk about each one individually. So the first technique is called pattern matching queries, and it's also called fuzzy query. In this queries, you can actually use any ungrammatical sentences. You can actually type incomplete sentence, disjoint phrase, nonsense words, and what the research engines does is that it's going to complete the incomplete words for you, and it's going to correct the ungrammatical sentences for you. So this is actually the first pattern matching queries. More thing is that the search engine gets a collection of keywords. You can actually type the mark plus before the keyword you want to search. For example, plus online learning. In this case, when you try to search, Google will not actually give you any results without the online learning, because it's actually a required keyword. While on the other hand, if you search using minus online learning, it's actually considered as a prohibited keyword. It will not give you any results about online learning. So in the fuzzy query or the matching query, it actually help you a lot with get you what you actually need, even if you type incorrectly or ungrammatical sentences. The second technique is Boolean queries. Actually, this query that consists of keywords that you need to use. For example, and or not. If you want to search for X and Y, in this case, will give you both X and Y results. If you type or Y, it will give you either one of them. And if you type X and not y, it will give you only results about the x. So these Boolean queries depends on the keywords that you use. And for the web applications, what I want from you guys, I want all of you to go to e-learning, and then you will find an essay question. This question you need to answer. It's related to web applications. You need to find two web applications and actually define their advantages and disadvantages in your own words. And that's it for today, guys. This is all we need to know about this lecture for this week, and I hope to see you next week, and please take care and see you. Bye bye. And actually